Well, hi everyone, and welcome to my monthly live. I've been trying to do this every month because it's been asked from me, and I do actually enjoy doing these lives. So, what the hell, right? Um, I know it's Friday, it's 5 o'clock on the East Coast, 2 o'clock Pacific. I hope that people are taking care of themselves, getting ready for their weekend. Don't know if anybody has great plans. My plans are not quite defined yet, but that's okay. Play it by ear. If I look a little out of it today, it's not that I'm not paying attention to anything, but I was at a training today for 6 hours. And I don't know if you've ever been to a training that you see the definition, you're like, oh, this is perfect. I want to learn about this. And you show up and you're like, it wasn't exactly what they said, number one. But more importantly, you end up knowing most of the stuff that they're talking about. So, well, that was my training today. So I'm a little tired because I was sitting there waiting for like the bomb to come out in the sense that, oh, yes, that's going to be the good part, right? But at the end of the day, it never did, never came. So ultimately, I'm here, a little tired, but I am here. The first thing I want to start off with, for those of you who you'll know, you can go listen to my podcast. It was a few weeks ago. Something happened on a flight back from Los Angeles. Um, and I posted about it on here on my YouTube video, and I also posted on my podcast. Go listen to it. I'm not going to review it. Go listen. So I think it's worthwhile, and it was the most downloaded episode I ever had, which I thank you for. I thank everyone for that. Go back to my podcast if you wish. And I just wanted to say a heartfelt thank you. I got emails from just about, I don't know, at least 15 people. I got texts from another bunch of people. I got Messenger Live. I got Instagrams. People really showed their concern. I appreciate it. And, I will be posting an update on my podcast. The quick answer is I'm doing better. Um, my kids are definitely doing great. My girlfriend is doing good too. Um, Still working on some stuff, but that's what being real is, unfortunately, the problem, right? If you're going to be yourself, you got to tell people that you're still working on stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think if you're going to work on stuff, might as well be honest about it. And I think that that's what I'm trying to do, is to be honest about all the stuff that I'm working on. So that's what's going on. So thank you for your support. It means more than I show right now. Again, I wish I wasn't so tired, but for those of you who wrote to me, thank you. For those of you who don't know, you can go listen to the podcast, and it's not, there's no plug here, in the sense that sometimes, what I had someone come in who knows me, who said to me, you ask your clients to be authentic at all times. And what you did is you put out a podcast about your authentic experience about something. And it proved to that person that I can be a human being, number one, that my authenticity is the reason why they really believe in me. And more importantly, they want to see how the hell I'm doing, which, again, I thank them for that. If they recognize themselves, that's great. If they don't, that's fine too. But I wanted to thank you for that. Have a lot of friends who have been supporting me. Shout out to my therapist, Joe, has been very helpful. So, and my kids are doing great. They think of it as an incident, nothing more, nothing less. So I think that's a good thing that they see it that way. And I hope that they continue seeing it that way. So the goal of these lives are just to interact with people. If you want to write something, I'm also on YouTube. If you want to go check me out on YouTube, you can do that. But if you want to write something, let me know. But today I want to talk about what are emotions. Because one of the things that has come up a lot with many people is that they want to know how emotions work. They want to know how to define emotions. They want to know everything around that. And the bottom line is, there's not a single definition of emotions. Um, I've looked at all the data that I can find, and I didn't do exhaustive search, but I did a pretty good search. And I go back to something that said in this definition. I'm going to read it because I think it's important to read it. But the emotions are mental states brought on by neurophysiological changes variously associated with thoughts, feelings, behavioral response, and a degree of pleasure or displeasure. That's the closest thing they found. But the other part that they talk about regularly is temperament, personality, disposition, creativity, and mood. Um, so how do we explain all that when someone say, "Hey, I want to talk about my emotions?" And I do have a program for emotional management, so I'll tell you what I usually start off with. And the first thing I talk about is for those of you who are familiar with the movie Inside Out from Disney. I don't know if you guys know about it. If you don't know about it, it's one hell of a good movie. I really enjoy the movie. Um, so I hope that you get a chance to go listen to it because it's really good. But it really talks about emotions. And I think in the movie, there's fear, mad, disgust, sad, and happy. And if you look at the wheel of emotions that are made for kids in particular, they talk about those 5 emotions plus, the sixth one, which I tend to forget, I think is surprise, and it is. I don't know everything. I'm a human being, so I don't know everything, but I looked it up. And I think that what I really like about that movie is that it normalizes, joy. Thank you. Yes, thank you. I forgot joy. Forgot the one that most people concentrate on and the one that most people wanna feel. So I'll go back to the 6 again: sad, mad, disgust, uh, uh, surprise, happy, and fear. So I think that what we have to do is to think about it as a basic level. There's several wheels of emotions that are out there. I encourage you to go check them out if you want to, but some of them become very complex. And for me, while I think that complexity can bring a lot of different things, obviously, for those of you who know me, I love the neurological aspect of mental health. I love the neurological aspect of many things. But when we talk about something as complicated as emotions, I want to simplify it the best I can. So having those 6 emotions are the easiest. And if you go see Inside Out, you'll really enjoy it. And while I'm doing this research, lo and behold, there's Inside Out that's coming out, I think next year, this Inside Out 2, which will be interesting to hear. But one of the things that I'm always asked about is that people want to feel joy only, right? That's the good one. And what I would say to you is, and again, what I would start off with is if anyone knows, are emotions good or bad? And if anyone knows, you can kind of like write something. Um, and I'll wait a little bit. I'm looking on my YouTube also. The one someone's in the chat, but they're not writing anything. All right. So here's the spoiler: emotions aren't good or bad. It's what you do with them that counts. This comes from my training that I did years ago that I started off as a anger management group. That I started an anger management group, I think in 2004. Yes, I'm kind of like dating myself. Hi, Cassie. Um, Always trying to say hi to people. And what I learned in anger management is most people wanted to find the right emotion. And there's no such thing as a right emotion, right? So it really pushed me to do a lot of research. Like I said, it's about 20 years in now that I've been looking at different things. Um, and one of the things that I've learned is that emotions are not good or bad. It's what you do with them that counts. And that includes anger, fear, surprise, sad, and disgust. And so what people say to me, and I've heard a few times, well, Steve, anger's not good, right? Well, anger is not bad. I mean, we need anger, right? And if you don't get angry once in a while, I'm kind of concerned about you. Why do we need anger? Well, from my or any emotions, frankly, this doesn't just, well, anger is okay, especially if something's happening that might be threatening to you, either physiologically or psychologically. I think that that's the good stuff that you got to remember is that you got to really address that stuff, right? So anger is not bad, and fear is not bad, and sad is not bad. Surprise is not bad. Disgust is not necessarily bad. It's really what you do with it. And what I encourage people to do, and joy, obviously, I did not forget about joy. It's realizing what you do with it. So if you have joy in your life and you decide to rub it into people's face, well, maybe that's not the best thing to do with joy, right? If you're angry and you start punching people, probably not the best thing in the world. If you're sad and you get to a point where you can't function, probably not a good thing, right? But sad also makes us get out our emotions. There's a lot of research studies that show that sadness, when you cry, when you say how you feel sad and how you feel, ultimately it leads to release of certain and there's, I'm not going to go into the chemicals, but with the release that you have, you feel a lot better. And it's the same thing about expressing your fears, expressing your anger, expressing disgust. I think that that's and surprise and joy. I think it's all important to express it. You just got to do it in the way that's probably better for most people. The other thing that gets forgotten about that those emotions is that there's not one emotions for anything. And what I mean by that is this. So if I asked you guys when you're driving a vehicle or your car or your truck or your whatever you're driving, and someone cuts you off, and maybe you get a little angry, you honk the horn. Is that simply anger? No, actually, it's not just anger, it's fear, it's surprise, and it's disgust to a certain extent. It's a bunch of emotions. The one that you primarily go to is anger because that's the one we all know about. And we also normalize anger in those particular situations. We don't normalize fear. Ultimately, it is mostly I would argue that fear is mostly what makes you respond that way, not necessarily anger. So, ultimately, I would like to continue having that conversation in regards to that with anger. Let's talk about another emotion, sadness when you lose a loved one. If everyone has lost a loved one, a friend, a pet, and I think that's family too for me, a neighbor, what have you, someone in school. And when you do lose that person, you feel a lot of sadness. The sadness is also probably um, linked to some fear, right? Because what I find is that people are fearful as what happens next, what happened with that person. Maybe they died of something that was scary to you, and maybe there's that fear or scare that goes in there. And sometimes it's surprising, and sometimes it's not. And it's realizing that even sadness can be a bunch of emotions. When you're happy, I'm usually happy to do these, but I gotta tell you, I get a little nervous. I'm not, I'm not saying that I don't like it. Obviously, I do it every month, so I must like it somewhere, right? But, there's a little, surprise to see how many people are gonna be on or not, right? There is some fear as to what if there's gonna be no one, it's never happened yet, but, I've had that in other settings. And so and ultimately, I get, a little sad if I don't see a few people who told me, "Oh, yeah, I'll be there, I'll listen to you," or what have you. So it's again a bunch of emotions. It's not singularly one. And one of the things that comes down to when we do the emotional management program, and I hope you go check it out or contact me if you want to join. But emotional management has a lot to do with normalizing all emotions. What we tend to do is, we say, well, mad's bad or sad is bad or whatever. No, it's socialization, right? And I'm going to make a huge general statement here that I know is absolutely a general statement. That does not mean it's an all or nothing statement, just a big statement. And the statement is as follows: with men, we've normalized happy and mad, but we haven't really normalized the other emotions, whether it's sad, fear, surprise, or disgust. We haven't really done that. Maybe disgust once in a while, but ultimately not a whole lot. And again, with women, we've normalized happy and sad, and maybe a little fear, but not so much, but anger and disgust and surprise, it sometimes is not so acceptable. And if you want to argue with me, that's fine. I don't want to be saying these general statements and offending anyone, but ultimately they are complicated. And so what I really kind of tell people is that we are socialized to feel certain things. Someone cuts you off, you give them the finger. That's anger. Bingo, you're done. No, you were afraid, you were surprised, you're sad because there's a lot of different things that go with that. Ultimately, what I do with emotional management is kind of look at all those things, see how you define emotions, which one you find positive, which ones you find negative. And I don't believe in that. I know there's research they're going to say there are positive and negative emotions. To me, emotions are neutral. They're not anything else but emotions. And if you learn to normalize it, you're not going to like try to run away compulsively from one or the other, whether it's anger, surprise, sadness, or happy for that matter, because that's sometimes happened too. So, wanted to share that. I know that it's a general statement. I know we're doing a live here, so most people will be catching the replay, I'm assuming. But ultimately, I wanted to have that conversation as to normalizing all the emotions, not just one or the other. And how many emotions are there? I told you about the basic ones, but I think that there's a wheel that I saw that had 126. Is there 126 emotions? Sure, why not? Um, I'm not going to define 126 for people, but it's also about the vernacular that you have. And what I mean by that is this: if you know how to express your anger in 12 different ways, that's something that would happen in anger. I'm not angry, I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed, um, I feel threatened, what have you. And I always tell people, yeah, but the core emotion is anger. So you can use other words, which is fine. And we can definitely work with that. But I always remind people, remember the core of the emotion. So you can accept it not only for you, but just normalize it for others. And it's okay to normalize it overall. So if you want more information, go to my website, steve-bisson, BISSON.com, and you can go check out my emotional management program. It's been there for a couple months now. Really enjoy it, and I'm hoping that people can join me on that. And if you have any extra questions, write to me. You know how to reach me, and I'm very appreciative of any comment that you may have. I'm going to finish with this. And I know, again, this is, so it's my life. I'm allowed to do whatever I want. I want to just plug something that's very important to me, which is my eighth season of my podcast, eighth season, which I never thought I'd finish one. Right. And this season is going to be my 100th episode, and it's going to be on the week of May 15th, I believe. And that's no, actually, that's the 100th episode. But that week, I'm going to try to have an episode every single day. Who's going to be on? Well, you'll have to tune in. But I'm trying to do something that's going to be fun for people and a couple of surprises. And maybe not a hour interview for all of them, but just want to change it up and really be grateful for people who have come on, people who have support me, and people who really have enjoyed the podcast. So that's going to happen with season 8. There's going to be a few changes, and I really hope that you guys notice them. If you do, let me know. Go listen to, tell me what you think. Otherwise, and also I forgot to say I might start my podcast in French. So for those of you who are listening who may want to hear it in French, because I have had a few requests from my home, and what I consider home is Quebec, although I love it here, but my home is always going to be Quebec because that's where I'm born and raised. Um, so I might be doing it in French. Have to, I don't know if I'll have to translate or something, but hoping that, if people enjoy that or people want to do that, please, they should let me know. Otherwise, I hope you guys have great plans for this weekend. Like I said, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to relax, obviously, but I'm going to try to also do things that I enjoy and make myself feel better. Hopefully, um, the sun will be out. I don't know where you're at. It's going to rain tonight. It's going to rain tomorrow morning here, but then it's supposedly next week, and especially it's going to get better. So looking forward to the better weather. I hope everyone's having a great March. I know it's the last day of March, and be careful tomorrow. For those of you who are listening, it's April Fools. My kids are really good at that, so I'm actually going to sweep the house. They're not with me this weekend, but I'm still going to sweep the house just in case. All right, guys. I hope you have a good night. I'll talk to you next month, and tell me if you have a subject you want me to bring up, because I forgot to say that, but bring up a subject. I'll bring it up. All right. Thank you.